ALC crew, week 17. Here's the rundown for this week. Thesis development demo for Ballad of Plastic Fred, final exam prep, and this week's to-do. So let's get started with our reading from this weekend, Ballad of Plastic Fred. On Monday, we'll work in groups to develop thesis statements. Yes, this is all practice for our final exam coming up next week. We'll begin with our purpose for reading. What impact do cultural stereotypes have on the children in this story? To structure our response, we'll use the X uses Y to show Z formula. Remember that the X is the author, in this case, Gansworth. Y is the artistic choices or literary devices the author uses. Here's a bank of literary devices you can consider: imagery, dialogue, foreshadowing, word choice, and symbolism, to name a few. And Z is the message the author is sending to the reader. Let's do an example together. The following two passages especially stood out to me as I was reading. The first is about a member of the children's community, Fred, who grows up to become typecasted in a series of Hollywood films that portray him as the dying Indian. To emphasize this, the narrator highlights the name change he was forced to make. For Hollywood, Fred Haukowski had become Frederick Eaglecry. Frederick Eaglecry died daily on some TV somewhere, but Fred Haukowski lived on in California, occasionally sending his mother picture postcards of palm trees and big houses which described to her his most recent death, so she could tell us and we'd all go to the movies so we could play Spot the Savage on bargain night. So this strikes me. The only way Hollywood would feature Fred was by casting him as a character that died daily on some TV somewhere. This makes me think that his life and the lives of American Indian people are not only undervalued, but whose savage deaths are justified as entertainment for the audience. Notice the word choice, savage. Shortly after this part, the narrator describes how the children play with the plastic Indian figure. The narrator describes Plastic Fred as getting a little beat. This was the figure everyone always wanted. He usually died the most dramatic deaths of all the figures we had. He had to be rejuvenated every so often, and so old Fred would be retired to our version of the ancient burial ground. We would give the Freds to one of Innes's older brothers, Eli, who either used them for target practice or tied them to firecrackers or put lighter fluid on them, or in some other way creatively mutilated them. I can't help but notice a connection between Hollywood's portrayal of American Indian characters as dispensable and the self-sabotaging violence that children inflict on their toys. By repeatedly highlighting the way they use them for target practice, or tie them to firecrackers, or put lighter fluid on them, or creatively mutilate them, what is Gansworth suggesting about how the children think they themselves deserve to be treated? Moreover, at one point, the narrator refers to the plastic dolls as Freds, plural, like multiple figures named Fred. There's an anonymous, mass-produced quality to this description, Freds, that at once suggests American Indian people have no individuality and that they're replaceable by the next cast version, much like the character Frederick Eaglecry. Cast is an important word here. Frederick Haukowski was cast as a disposable character. Plastic Fred was cast from the same mold as all the others. At the end, we learn that Fred Haukowski takes his own life. What message does this send the children of the story? Okay, I'm ready for my thesis. Here we go. In the Ballad of Plastic Fred, Gansworth uses word choice and imagery to show how mass-produced stereotypes can lead young people to engage in harmful, self-loathing behavior. To equip you for this activity, I put together a resourcing canvas under week 17 called Thesis Practice. Now in your groups, please use the X uses Y to show Z formula to develop a clear and arguable thesis statement. We'll share and critique these thesis statements at the end of class. As you're developing your practice thesis statements, think about how this story, Ballad of Plastic Fred, reflects some of the salient issues facing many American Indian communities, including the people of Pine Ridge. Think about the violence, suicide rates, and institutionalized dependence. As we move into the second half of the week, I'd like to share the passage we'll be using for our final exam essay. It's a poem called Evolution by Sherman Alexie. As you examine this poem, you'll quickly identify many of the ideas and themes we've been discussing in class. As you explore the poem, use our overarching essential question to focus your thinking. Here it is once again. How does America's history and present-day practices cause American Indian people to struggle in maintaining their cultural identity in American society? This poem and its purpose for reading can be found on Canvas under week 17 under the assignment called Read an Established Thesis, Evolution by Sherman Alexie. On Thursday, we'll work in small groups to unpack some of the big ideas in the poem and connect them to the larger discussion we've been having. Then you'll have the option of developing a thesis statement that you may use as part of your in-virtual class essay next week. And one more thing, you may be interested in knowing how this final essay will be graded. It'll be scored using the holistic scoring rubric, which can be found on Canvas under week 17. We'll review this rubric on Thursday to give us a clear indication of how to approach writing this essay. So what do we have to do? Here it is. 1. Write your practice thesis for Ballad of Plastic Fred. This will be due on Monday, December 7th by the end of class. 2. Read Evolution by Sherman Alexie. This will be due on Thursday, December 10th by the start of class. And 3. Write your practice thesis for Evolution. This will be due on Friday, December 11th by 11:59 p.m. So next week, make sure to log in on time as we'll be focusing exclusively on our in-virtual class essay. Well, that's it for this one, ALC crew. We'll see you in virtual class. In the meantime, stay safe, stay focused, and stay connected.